The orphans, they starved. America's forgotten nutrition experiments in the 1940s and 50s. Orphan children in the United States and Canada were used in secret medical experiments. They weren't told what was happening. They didn't give permission. Most were too young to understand, but they were chosen because they were vulnerable. Because no one would ask questions. The goal was to test the effects of malnutrition and vitamin deficiencies. Researchers wanted to see what happened to children when essential nutrients were removed. They used orphanages and residential schools as laboratories. These children were already poor, already hungry. And scientists made it worse, on purpose. In Canada, over 1,000 Indigenous children in residential schools were selected for testing. Researchers cut their milk rations in half. They denied them dental care. They fed some children enriched food, and others almost nothing. They took blood samples, they tracked the damage, but they never tried to help. The experiments lasted for years, and no one was held responsible. The children grew up with long-term health problems. Some lost teeth, some never grew properly. Many died young. In the United States, similar experiments were carried out in state institutions. In Massachusetts, children at the Fernald School were fed radioactive oatmeal. They were told it was part of a science club, but it was part of a radiation study funded by the government and corporations. The children had no idea. They thought they were being rewarded. Instead, they were being poisoned. The experiments were supported by the Atomic Energy Commission and by companies like Quaker Oats, all in the name of scientific progress. But at what cost? Some of the boys later sued the government. They won a settlement, but no one went to jail. No names were exposed. No officials lost their jobs. These stories stayed hidden for decades. Documents were buried, whistleblowers were ignored, the children were forgotten. It wasn't until the 1990s that the truth began to surface. Reporters and researchers uncovered the files. Victims spoke out. Governments gave weak apologies. But most people still don't know these experiments happened. This is not ancient history. Some of the survivors are still alive. Some still live with the damage done to their bodies. Others never got to grow up at all. They were used, not protected, not cared for. Used because they had no parents. Because they were poor. Because they were indigenous. Because someone thought they wouldn't fight back. The people who did this war, lab coats, they had degrees and government funding. They said it was for the greater good, but the victims never got to choose. They never got to say no. This is not just a dark chapter, it's a warning about what happens when science loses its soul, when vulnerable people are treated as tools, when progress becomes more important than humanity. If we forget these children, we fail them again. Their stories deserve to be known, not as footnotes, but as a lesson we cannot afford to repeat.